Hello everyone, it's Patrick with Swerve Specialties, and in this video I'm going to show you how to assemble a Mark II module. So the first thing we're going to start with is the motors. We've already cut about 3/10 of an inch off the motors and pressed on the 15 tooth 32 DP pinion per Rev Robotics instructions. So we've got the motor plate here. Put the motor plate on, and using the 4 short 1032 socket head cap screws, we'll secure the motors. And this is a 5/32 Allen key. And you should use a little bit of medium strength thread locker on these screws. Okay, and then on this motor you're going to put one of the 8mm shims, the key, and the keyway, and your motor pinion, and the retaining ring. And you can actually use the wheel spacer part to help install the retaining ring. We can use like a socket or something. Okay, we're just going to set this aside. The second thing we're going to get started with is the wheel. So this is a 4-inch Versa wheel. We've already sanded the Versa keys off of one side of it with like a belt sander or something. So we're going to take the large bevel gear and then install it with the 6 thread forming flathead screws. And with these screws, it's helpful to use a number 3 Phillips head screwdriver, which is bigger than the typical one you probably have. It just fits in the head a lot better and makes screwing these in easier. Okay, when you have all your screws in, you want to put your 1 1/8 inch OD, 1/2 inch ID flange bearing in the side with the gear on it. Then on the other side you put your 1 1/8 OD 3/8 inch ID flange bearing in to the wheel. And then the wheel spacer goes in on the gear side. And I'll just set this aside. And the next thing we're going to get started on is the steering encoder. So you're going to take your US Digital MA3, put it in the encoder plate, and then with the supplied locking washer and nut that came with your encoder, secure it in the hole, and then you want to use some sort of 1/2 inch wrench to tighten that nut. It doesn't have to be crazy tight. And then we're going to put the encoder gear on here next. So this is the encoder hub, and I'm going to take this encoder gear, put it on here, just kind of line up the holes, push it on, and then with 3 of the supplied 440 flathead screws, you're going to secure it. And these are a T8 drive. And these do not need to be super tight, just snug is good. And then you're going to secure the encoder hub and gear onto the encoder shaft using a 50 thou Allen key. Okay, set that guy aside. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is install our thin section bearing into the module main plate. So just get it started. This helps if you put it in nice and straight. And then that is held into the main plate with the 5 short button head 1032 screws. And you want to use a small bit of medium strength thread locker on these screws. And these go in with a 1/8 inch Allen key. There we go. Okay, now we're going to start installing the bearings and shafts into the main pulley. So this is the 3/8 inch Thunderhex bearing. Goes in that way. And then we have the intermediate shaft, put in this way. And then the second stage driven gear goes here. And here's our 1224 flathead screw. And you definitely want a little bit of medium strength thread locker on this screw. That's secured with a 1/8 inch Allen key. And then to tighten this screw, it's best if you can hold the 3/8 inch hex with something, like for example one of the other gears or a 3/8 inch wrench. So we got that tightened. And then the next thing to do is to take your steering shaft with integrated pulley, get your belt on there, and you want to get this kind of in there like that, get it started. Then this is your 1/2 inch OD 1/4 inch ID bearing onto the end of the steering shaft. Then we're going to put this whole thing into the mounting plate, main plates. You'll see the bearing is fitting into that hole in the main plate. It's important that everything goes in pretty straight. There we go. Okay, the next thing to do is we're going to put the small bevel gear onto the intermediate shaft. And then the other 8mm shim. And then these two 688 bearings. Then this wheel mount. And then the shorter of the two 1/4 20 socket head cap screws secure that wheel mount. And you're going to tighten those with a 3/16 inch Allen key. And you want to use a little bit of medium strength thread locker on these screws. Great. Okay. Then we're going to take one of the 689 flange bearings, put it in that center hole. And then put your second stage driving gear in the center. And then we're going to put this 3D printed gear secured by the other 440 flathead screws. And this is the T8 Torx driver. And these guys don't need to be super tight, just snug. Okay. And then we'll put in our center shaft and our first stage driven gear. And we'll also put the 45-232 DP gear on the steering shaft. We're going to install the two 689 flange bearings on the top of these shafts. And then we're going to put this together with the motor plate assembly to get those bearings in their holes. There we go. So the first set of spacers I like to do are the ones on this side. And these are the really long and skinny ones. So I'll get these started. The long 1032 socket head cap screws. 5/32 Allen key, and use a little bit of medium strength thread locker on these screws. And we're just getting these started. We're not actually tightening them all the way. And then on the other side, you want to get the screws started. Then put one of the real short spacers on. Then the encoder gear assembly. And then you want to get one of these medium length spacers on. Sneak them in there. That started. Same on the other side. And tighten these the rest of the way. And these two screws, you want to use a little bit of medium strength thread locker. We're going to tighten these other two on the other side. We'll do a little final tighten on all of them. Okay. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is install the other wheel mount with the two longer 1/4-20 socket head cap screws. A little bit of medium strength Loctite on these, 3/16" Allen key. And we're just going to get these started most of the way in, but not fully tightened. Like that. And then the wheel mount, the wheel bevel gear assembly we previously made goes in there. Take our big shoulder bolt axle, that goes through. Small amount of medium strength thread locker on this. Now once that's almost all the way in, we'll go ahead and tighten these guys up the rest of the way. Finish tightening our shoulder bolt axle. And that's it. We've completely assembled the Mark II module.